Well, welcome. My name is Dana Taylor, and I'm a member of the advisory board for Spiritual Awakenings International. And I'm very excited to be the host for the Near-Death Experiencers panel. And our very first presentation will be from Felice DiMartino. She had a profoundly transformative near-death experience in 2015. Formerly a Montessori School Educator, Felice currently serves as an international speaker, workshop facilitator, and multidimensional guide of the Way of Light. And she is the founder of Grounded Illumination. Welcome, Felice.
So it is truly an honor to be here, and I'll get right to it. So in 2015, I had been a spiritual explorer for the majority of my adult years, from the time I graduated from from college in my 20s. And it feels like it was a culmination leading up to my near-death experience, because what I found is, in my near-death experience, it confirmed in an embodied experiential knowing, capital, I call it the gnosis knowing, the knowing way, all of the exploration and all of the outer seeking that I had done to come back to realize that it's right here all along. And the theme of this conference and this global awakening and this dawn of expanded consciousness that we're on the precipice of, that's actually occurring. It feels really important to share this experience. In my near-death experience, I look at it as these phases of what happened. So I'll just share. So I was hit by a truck while I was crossing the street, a big truck. I was leaving school one day and I was hit by a large pickup truck. I never saw it coming. I was in the crosswalk. It was going about 30, 35 miles an hour, and it struck my right side. And I'll share some of the experience, but I really want to get to the takeaways. So the first place that I found myself was, I was above the scene, looking down with a bird's eye view at what had just occurred. I saw my body laying on the ground. I saw it in an expanse. I say I saw, and remember when I'll do the best with words, but I was seeing from a sight that was beyond the eyes seeing, because my body was laying still and motionless on the right side. So I couldn't see through my eyes, yet I was seeing from an expanded viewpoint. And I was in a bilocating state. And there was a sort of assessment of, was I going to be able to go back to that body on the ground? I mean, there was a disorientation, and then there was a recognition that that body laying on the ground was the body, was my body, was the body that I was inhabiting. And I could hear what was going on the ground. I could feel what was going on, and the sheer terror and panic of the bystanders and the woman who hit me. So I could hear it, again, not with my ears, but with an extended sensorial experience that's beyond the five senses, yet that are extensions of the five senses. So I was able to see, feel, hear all at one time. And then I found myself lifting higher and higher and higher above my body. And I was immersed in this illuminated blackness. It was as if as my body, as my vital force was diminishing. It turns out I was bleeding. There was a lot of internal things that were going on in my body, and I was bleeding out of my pelvis. And as the life force was diminishing and conserving itself, I was existing. The me that was existing was being energized. And I found myself in complete blackness. And this blackness had an illuminated quality to it. It was it was light. There was light in the blackness. And I was existing in a merging with this blackness. I was not separate from the blackness. I was the blackness, and there was no I. I'm saying I, however, I was not separate. There was a simple experience of merging with this state of existing. There was no time. There was no, we aim to give it qualities, yet it simply was pure presence and existing as pure union and presence. There was no thought. There was simply being. And out of that beingness, there was a shift again, there's no time. So there was a shift in a vibration where I was still in the blackness, yet the blackness shifted so that I was in a different frequency of the blackness. And then it felt as though I was wrapped in a cocoon, and I was aware on my periphery that there were, I say others, yet there was presences that were also existing in this state. And I understood, I just knew that it was a waiting place of some kind. And as soon as I understood that, a wondering emerged. It's like an energy packet emerged of, well, what am I waiting for if this is the waiting? And I was immediately brought into the presence of this enormous light. And this light, there was a presence in the light that was other than my own, yet that communicated with me in merging together. And I know, our earthbound language and logic aims to make sense of what is beyond the sense-making rational mind. So we give it as the best words that we can describe. So I entered into this light, purely into this light. And I'll go through this more quickly, because the story is, and what occurred can be found in lots of places. And what's really important to share is the messages that arose from it. So needless to say, I was in this place of merging with this light, and there was a lot that transpired in the full merging with light. There was a full telepathic communication with this being that was there for me to share information with me. And there was a complete download. And in an instant, I was shown and understood everything that had occurred for my soul, everything that was occurring on earth in the present incarnation I had just come out of. I understood in again, a multidimensional way. Kind of, if you take a Rubik's Cube and all the different facets of the Rubik's Cube are a different understanding, I saw how all the pieces fit together. And I understood about the nature of being human, incarnate on earth in a lifetime. And at some point, there was an urgency to get back. And there was a sharing. If I was going back into the body, I needed to get back into the body. And as I descended, there was a sense of descending into the body. The last thing I heard, it is a vibrational frequency of words, was, when you go back, it's time to live big. There was that message. And then there was, I asked this presence, who are you? And what I heard and was shown and saw was a reflection of that presence. And out of that was this aspect of that said, I am you. And I descended. It felt like I was descending into the body. There was a sense of I was hovering above my body, and also at the same time being squeezed like this genie in a bottle, being kind of squeezed in this encasing and this density, yet I was also existing as bigger than the density. And I was hearing what the physical form started yelping and And there was a sense, like I said, of I was in, yet I was also out at the same time. And I was in the ambulance and I was on top of the ambulance looking. I was profusely bleeding from my head as well. And they were aiming to keep me there. So there was something at my head and I was watching from above, and also I could see from both vantage points of being in the body and someone at my head and out of the body. And then I was rushed to the level 1. I think it's a level 1 trauma unit, which is not the closest hospital. And when I came more to be in my body, there was this organized chaos of being in this trauma unit. And really what I wanted to focus on is more of this, the black light, this illuminated blackness, and this white light. And this cracking open, to relate it to now, William Peters just spoke about the integration and embodiment, right? While we are here in these physical forms at this time on Earth, in our individual lives and as a collective, we have these cracked open moments where we can access these states of remembrance of our true essence, of the nature of who we truly are, without having a near-death experience. Yet it feels as though, the things that happen in our lives that crack us wide open to experience the source of the union, that place of oneness, that place of our eternal, where we are eternally, and also of these crystalline frequencies. When I was in this white light, in this communion with this presence, every color imaginable, every nuance, every perspective, all the multiple ways we can experience something existed in that space and was transmitted. And with the expanded awareness that's occurring on the planet and in our own individual lives as embodied humans, we have access to remember this information. It's encoded. It's as a near-death experiencer, it feels that the remembering I was activated in all of the molecules within me, and shown that we all have this. It's encoded within us. And
at least you got about 1 more minute.
Okay. Anyway, we are waking up to these upgraded, activated states of awareness. The main things that I heard were, it's time to live big, and paying attention to what it is that keeps us small. All is truly well, and the ways to experience all is truly well in our waking state and to be embodied expressions of that is to practice forgiveness, compassion, gratitude, acceptance, trust, faith, surrender, love, to ask ourselves, what would love say, do, be, choose right now? And also to see the I am presence, to see the spark of the divine that exists in every human being, and to see that reflected, because we are reflections of that. And it doesn't mean we don't have boundaries in our waking lives and in our human embodiments. It simply means that we are all mirrors of each other in that source, in that spark. So I'll leave it there because I could go on and I want to respect time. So thank you for listening, and thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you so much. Wow, that's beautiful. I know you still have a lot more to say.
That's okay. That's okay. And there weren't 33 slides, by the way. There was just a portion of that. So yeah, thank you.
All right. Well, our next presenter is going to be Loreli Drache. Hope I got that right. She has had 4 near-death experiences, a lifetime of spiritually transformative and paranormal mystical experiences. She is medically trained as a medical assistant and has held many roles and has certifications within the medical field. Loreli has created Spirit Sight, an expanding consciousness community. Welcome, Loreli.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me today. And yes, I've actually had 5. I had a 5th one on December 19th. And I wanted to talk a little bit today in our limited space of time. I just run through those near-death experiences. But mostly the takeaway of what Spirit gave me the term becoming a divine conduit. My first near-death was the childhood NDE. I drowned at 7. And I'll just share that with you right here. In this next slide here, you'll see at age 7, when I drowned, this is the image that I saw when I went to heaven, or as I call our source of things. When I was 7, my NDE happened when I drowned. And the thing that proves consciousness is with outside of the body is that I connected to all my loved ones' consciousness. I knew what they were doing and thinking at the time of my drowning. And once I knew everyone else was okay, that's when I went to what you're seeing here. The source within that that came through this portal with the most divine parental love I've ever felt and peace. I darkened it for visual purposes. But what I learned through that is that it was an aspect of me. I was a piece of this divine. And that's why it says we are divine, love incarnate, whole and fully. Anything outside of pure love is an illusion. Well, my next NDE was at the age of 28. Up until this time, we had tried very hard to have children and were unable to. I became pregnant, but was told in a death communication with my grandmother, came to visit me, that this baby was not mine to keep. She showed me the clinic and the date on the calendar. And indeed, I was rushed to the ER on that day and had to have emergency D&C, in which I stopped breathing and was bleeding out. And the doctor, I worked at that particular hospital, said he almost lost me. He was not very happy with me. For the stress it put on the team to try to save me. My third one was at the age of 36, in which I lost blood flow to my brain. I have some autoimmune issues. And I had staggered back, hit my head against the door jamb, seizured, and stopped breathing in front of my husband and daughter, and was just slumped over laying there. I went to what I call Heaven City. I saw a being that looked like my mother, but I knew it was not her energy, and they were surprised I could sense that. And she was like, this was for your benefit, to keep you calm. This is where I gained my understanding of, the positive balance. They said I had done enough, I could stay. But in that experience, I remembered a past life in which I was murdered and died in front of my same daughter. And I chose not to do that to her soul again. I saw the suffering it had caused her. So I returned. In my 4th death experience, I had an autonomic nervous system issue. I stopped breathing in my sleep. Within this one, I learned the power of words, thought, and communication. They said at my level of light, I had to watch what I said and what I wrote, because I had wrote something jokingly, how I wanted you to die like Grandpa did in his sleep, not screaming like the passengers in his car the week before. Yeah, bad move. And things were manifesting very fast at that time. I just was unaware why, but they said it was my frequency. But I also learned in this experience that they told me that I needed to get into my body now, right now, if I wanted to keep this vessel. But they call this vessel a vehicle, and I had to how to start this vehicle. I even did what they called a systems check. So I thought that was very interesting as well. And I took a lot away from that on how emotion and thought with intention creates our reality. My 5th death, as I mentioned, was December 19th. I thought I was long done with them. But I went to a place outside of what I call all of these levels, dimensions, and understandings, to the place of just pure consciousness. And within this, The extreme love I felt in my first, I felt there, but not as deeply. And it was just this velvety darkness that encompassed you. It felt like being in a womb. But I also learned the reason for creation. You know, this sentient energy, this consciousness, the depth of love I felt here, I felt the opposite, the extreme loneliness that consciousness experienced before it created a mirror of itself to reflect its thoughts and its emotions and share those, and how creation expanded from there. And then through session work and other understandings, I understood that creation still felt lonely looking through that looking glass. You could see the beautiful things in the universes, the dimensions, everything it created, but it could not experience it. So it decided to put itself into its creation. In my Beyond Quantum Hypnosis, I said it was a godling's game of smoke and mirrors, where it was reflections to help them of themselves, to help them grow and expand. So through all these understandings and a profound near-death spiritual transformative experience in 2019 with the being that he asked me to call Yeshua, of showing me the creation of Earth from the time it was a thought form until where it is now and what free will has done. Within that experience, I promised to speak my truth and begged for forgiveness for not being mindful. And within that, I was told that, you know, my voice carries frequencies that heal. All of ours does. They carry various frequencies and codes and light codes, I was told, of divine activations and things that each of us have carried into this experience for one another. And that's why it's so important to speak our truth. Through this of becoming a divine conduit, I learned various things and techniques that were important, or just words that they gave me that to bring back with me. One of them was energetic hygiene, to wake up grateful, because this is a gift, because we get to experience what we create. And the truest actualization of that is becoming lucid and creating mindfully out of love within the experience. That was shown to me as part of the reason. So as you can see here, you know, salt baths, grounding yourself. Water is a huge conduit. I do a lot of work with water. High energy foods, especially when you're feeling stressed, which are usually like organic fruits and vegetables, just because your body can process them, it takes less away from them during those times of stress. As I mentioned, mindfulness, what you believe you become. They literally showed me this. So anything that is unloving, to dispel outside ourselves, give it no power, detach from it, release what doesn't serve, and affirm that you are whole and holy always. Perception. They went on and on about perception. How you see the world is how you're going to experience it. So I was literally pulled out of body once to show that how someone expected me to behave would pull my energy into the story of their experience, their timeline of how they would behave and I would behave because of those expectations. We don't realize how powerful we are in that sense. So how you view something and how you expect it and the expectations you have of someone else is very powerful in how those situations manifest for you. Authenticity. Living your truth brings you into divine wholeness. Through these profound experiences, I realized that finding myself, who I truly was in my expression in the world. I had a lot of throat chakra issues, and I couldn't understand it. But I was fearful of being authentically me. After my first near-death experience, I was given all these abilities, and I had all my clairs. And at 7 years old, what do you do with that? You know, but I kept hiding it away. I kept putting things away that I knew, or just who I was, in order to fit the confines, the conditionings of what society expects you to be and what it expects you to look like, especially going into the medical field. When I started getting intuitive knowledge, what do you do with that? Even the doctor's like, how did you know that? I'm like, I don't know, I just did, but trusting myself to say that, trusting myself in that moment, that getting that spiritual confidence of knowing I know what I know, and it is the truth of me, and sharing it with others, was a huge growing moment in my bringing all of that reintegration process. It was huge in that we're learning to speak from my heart and what I knew and what had happened to me. Sovereignty was huge, respecting everyone's creation. I was given the understanding that each of us create our own timelines and our own experiences. We have these energetic agreements where we weave in and out of them. So it might have been a red shoe for you, it was a blue shoe for me. The background is like a color form earth, and you stick on all the things, you build on it, but we all have the same backdrop. That's what I was shown. So knowing that helped me. I always was given the term remembrance guide, not healer, because I am taking people back to their own divine oneness. And within that, you are whole and whole. Illness is the illusion, right? It exists in a place outside of your natural state of being. That's why I'm not a huge proponent of labels, because it puts it in a box, and all the energy that label has ever been fed applies to you. If you say, I am this, I am that, correct? So I think that's why my spirit can give me my own labels, but just the labels. And in respecting that sovereignty, looking at anybody else, are you judging them? Do you have expectations? Think about when you say mother, you expect certain things from that label, correct? When you say husband, same thing. Your children, they should be loyal, they should be respectful. All of those are confining things into a box. So I no longer question other people's creations or their spiritual experiences. I've had so many profound experiences. It would be hypocritical to say that's not within experience. Everything is within our capability to experience, because we are limitless when we are outside of those constructs.
Right, your 1 minute.
All right, I'm almost done.
Time goes.
Accountability and responsibility. Look at your life challenges. When you look at them from the observer view, what is your accountability in those situations and how they played out? And that's very huge in expanding your light channel, to accept that responsibility and forgive yourself and anyone that you can within that creation of that event. And last, laugh and be loved. Finding your bliss. Joy is everywhere. My mother, in so many after-death communications, has spoken to me about finding your joy. That's why you're here, this joy to experience. It is a gift. So if you're not being authentically you are not experiencing it authentically. And to love what you do. Because when you love what you do, you are in that state of divine flow. And when you're in that state of divine flow, abundance comes. You need to, as long as we let go of the outcome and what it needs to look like and stop putting parameters on it, just when you're in that state of joy, you're not creating things that you don't wish to experience, because there is no thought when you are in pure joy. You just remember yourself. And I thank you for letting me speak today, and just for you to know that all of your being is being thanked by your ancestors, your loved ones, because they experience everything through you, just like the Truman Show. I've seen this numerous times. I've literally watched it on screens in my experiences. They are learning and growing through you, and they thank you for being brave enough to take this journey. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Lorelei. Wow. That is so much inspiration and beautifully stated. All right. Well, our next presenter is Donna Rebadow, and she is the host of Exploring Consciousness podcast. In 1998, she had an NDE, changing how she views herself, the world, and other dimensions. She's taught at the Arizona Community Colleges for 30 years in the areas of health, wellness, psychology, and alternative medicine. And in 2010, she opened a sports medicine acupuncture practice. Welcome, Donna.
Thank you. I want to thank, it's my honor to be here, and I want to thank Dr. Yvonne Cason, all the staff, administration, and members of SAI. What I'm going to talk about today is I'm going to tell you three different things. It's the capacity to heal. I'm going to tell you about my transformative NDE, my partnership with Sadie the Miracle Dog, and then what we've learned from both. And there we go. So my actual drowning experience. So here we go. So I was out in northern New York with my family. We're out on a lake, and we were on a lake toy, and there was a freak accident, and the boat was taking on water, and my sister and I had to get off the inflatable raft. When it did, the tow rope got wrapped around my leg. It actually strangled my leg above the knee. And my brother-in-law, who was driving the boat, didn't realize that I was back there. And so he takes off. And so I took a big breath of air because I knew, oh my gosh, this is going to hurt. Sure enough, when the rope strangled my leg to the bone, I went under and I knew I was going to drown. And in fact, I did. I drowned. When I did, I went through this veil. It was like a saran wrap kind of thin veil. And when I poked through it, I had a lot of realizations. I said, one, oh man, I'm dead. This is going to ruin everybody's afternoon. And so the next thing was I realized that I was in eternity. There was no movement of time. And even though I'm going to talk about I had a body, like Felice said, it's like you don't have a body and you don't have eyes, but it's as if you did. And I realized my cells were shaking and laughing and excited. And I looked down and I was wondering, I go, cells, what are you doing? What's so exciting? And I realized they were looking past me. So I raised my head, and there was a spiritual, electricity that was happening as if something was coming up from the end of the earth. Now I'm on the other side, and we looked up, and I went, it's the creator of the universe. And I'm flying through the universe up to the creator. The creator of the universe, to me, presented as if it was the aurora borealis. And each of us are going to sound as if we had a different experience, because we did. We have designer, what I call designer deaths. The creator of the universe so loves you that he's going to make this death experience in a way that you will be very relaxed in. So I'm flying through the universe, and I have to explain telepathy in which there's a thought put in your head, into your brain, which I know you don't have, but as if you did. And you're given a concept, and it jumps open, it explodes open in your head, and you immediately know what is being said. So I'm getting all this information about the universe and about the creator and how things worked. And it was just loving. It was beautiful. And then I realized I was slowing down and coming to a halt, and I had love shooting through my body, my cells, myself this way, and telepathy coming down through my head this way. So it's an all-encompassing experience. And as I'm slowing down, I realize I'm going to be now hugged. I'm going to be hugged by the creator of the universe, by the aurora borealis, by this beautiful thing. So I kind of got into this hugging, and I just didn't want to leave there. It just was this beautiful, safe place, this overwhelming love. And I knew that the universe was created just for me. That's what it felt like. It was just me and God. It was this overpowering love. And then I realized I was pulling away from this hug. And over to my right, I see this demarcation line. And I realized if I go over there, if I'm going to go past this line, I'm going to be dead. I won't be able to come back. So I'm dead, but I'm not dead. I'm just in this state of love and bliss. And I want to show you a video, if it'll work, from the YouTube channel Coming Home. I'm showing it to you because it's well done by LA producers, and you can see the whole story. Here's the question that God's going to ask me. I hear God say this. So, Donna, what would you like to do here? I never thought I would say this in a million years. So you can say, well, when I die, I'm going to ask God this. No, it did not happen. So I look at God and I said, well, God, since you made me, I give the choice to you. As soon as that happened, I immediately realized what I had just done. Gave away my choice. And some people go, well, no, that was your choice. Your choice was that. No, I said, I gave away knowing what was going to happen next. Okay, God, I give the choice to you. As I'm waiting for God to answer me, I heard this, and I don't know what beings, or I have no idea, but it was like, when you go back, you will tell people how important choice is in their lives. Here's what choice means. It doesn't mean what am I going to have for dinner. It means every moment of your life, you are making choices in your thinking. How you think about people, how you think about the story. Someone tells you something that goes against your belief system, and you go, I don't really believe that, even if you don't say it. That's a choice. And how precious choice is to human beings. You know, we talk about free will, but this was like more than that. This is like every moment. So when I came back, I had to talk to people about choice. And when I got interviewed, people would say, well, what is really choice all about? And I had a little sound bite, and I realized I couldn't do what I learned about choice any justice. That we choose every moment. We have free will, but you're going to be given signs, and you're going to be asked to choose to be of service and of love. So my guides and my guardian angels asked me to put together, because I'm a teacher, a PowerPoint project about choices. So here's my YouTube channel and the Choices Project, because I wanted to teach people about how to do this. I remember my niece said to me, you want me to change, but I don't know how. So I realized, oh my gosh, we better do something about that. So I have some pretty good guides and angels. They know how to work with a teacher. So I put together this PowerPoint project. So I'm now going to tell you about signs and a choice I had to make about a seeing eye dog, Sadie. And this is Sadie, the miracle dog. So I'm going to tell you about Sadie. So I'm back from my afterlife. I'm, going through life, and I realize watch for the signs. So I'm at a plaza, a store. I'm going to go into a store, but I see these people over there they're trying to get puppy raisers for the Eye Dog Foundation. So they have German Shepherds. Oh my God. So I go flying over there, and I go, what are you guys doing? Well, we need puppy raisers for the Eye Dog Foundation. Would you be one? Now, by the time my roommate comes up, and she's like, no, don't do that. And I was like, oh, this is a sign. I really should do that. Let me think about it. But if I do, you see this dog here, they had pictures of 10 puppies. Then there was this puppy I was drawn to. It had a white collar. I said, will I be able to train this dog? And they said, well, if you choose to be a puppy raiser, you can. So a week later, I called, and I then had an adventure with Sadie the guide dog. So for 4.5 years, well, she got sick. We were training her to be a seeing eye dog. She got catastrophically ill. I got her back, and I'm laying in the vet hospital with her, and they said she's not going to make it. And I grabbed onto her, and I said, the same creator of the universe. I said, God, if you can find it in your heart to save this dog, I promise we'll do something special. And he did. And we did. We became a pet therapy team at a local Phoenix hospital. Every Wednesday for 4.5 years, Sadie and I went up to be with those kids. And she would walk into a room, and she was a medical intuitive, and she would know. And the hospital was a city hospital. Families could be there, and the kids could be there. And Sadie would go to the person that needed the most healing. And I would watch that. And so, again, there's so much to be said about it. And I decided to write a book, Wednesdays with Sadie, the Miracle Dog. And it talks about her life as a guide dog, her catastrophic illnesses, and 11 stories of kids whose lives she changed. And so it's not just we that have the capacity to heal, but this dog had a capacity to heal. And here's how we did it. Here's the Sadie effect. And it's a quote from a nurse. You both brought such smiles and sparkles to the pediatrics, peds, and PICU crew. Not only were you able to work miracles in the healing of our patients, but you both worked miracles in the hearts and souls of each and every individual that you came in contact with. So this is how we can change. This is what we can do to look for signs and to make your choices. So what's the learning we get out of this? I trusted her with her intuitive healing and her role in healing. I was the guide, but it was Sadie's love that helped heal her kids. She did so well. She won from the Animal Care and Control. She won a hero award for the work that she did. So I want you to know what you bring on the other side is your love. And when you do your love, you do it by your choices. So God, my spiritual guide, my guardians are all about love, and they continue to teach me how to love better. Every day I'm aware of what I'm doing. Make great choices, forgive myself, and start the healing process. My ND has allowed me to share my afterlife experience with those who are facing death, who are afraid to die, who have questions about dying. So it transformed me. I now know other dimensions of reality, how to really pay attention, how to be of service, and love at all costs. So I just want you all to know it's just, if you can just slow it down, appreciate everything in front of you, and just every single day, who's in front of you, and how you can be aware and think of choices that you're making about how you feel about them, how you feel about yourself. I want to say how much I love you and what a choice it is to be here. Thank you for choosing me.
Well, thank you, Donna. That was really inspiring and heartwarming, right? I mean, Sadie, the miracle dog, I got questions. Anyway, though, we're going to move to Reverend Dr. Norma Edwards. And she is the founder of Reprogram Your Life, LLC. She has been the recipient of many awards for her work in prisons, community work, and with youth. She is a near-death experiencer of 50 years, and Dr. Edwards is recognized as a change agent and a wisdom keeper on the planet. Welcome, Dr. Norma.
Thank you so very much for that wonderful introduction. And I also want to say how happy I am to be a part of this panel today, and that you have given me the opportunity to share what I have learned over well over 50 years. My near-death experience happened in 1966, believe it or not, when nobody had ever heard of such a thing as a near-death experience. And I came back terrified that they would put me in a mental institution if I shared with them what I was thinking or what I had learned. So I remained quiet for 15 years. And then it was only when my mother was transitioning that I shared it with her after 15 years. And then I shut up again until the very first book that was written on a near-death experience came out. And I stayed up all night to read it. And I'm thinking, oh my God, somebody else has had the experience that I did. But my experience happened in a medical emergency. And I ended up in hospital and in excruciating pain. And they decided to do surgery. Now I got out of my body and I'm on the ceiling looking down at the surgeons doing what it is they do. And I can't explain it. It's just unexplainable. And then they realized that I had flatlined. And I watched them pick up what I call the paddles. And from the position I was in, I could see the corona of electricity around the paddles. And the thought in my head was, if I don't get out of here, they'll kill me. And with that thought, I found myself going straight through the ceiling and into a very, very dark tunnel, complete darkness. And I'm traveling almost at the speed of light. I come around a corner and I could see the exit out of the darkness. And it was at first a kaleidoscope of brilliant light. But as I drew closer and I was about to enter it, the brilliance turned into crystal clear white light. And that moment when I merged with the light, I have no words, not in any language, that can acutely describe the feeling of love, the feeling of light, the feeling of acceptance. I knew that I was enter the light, and the first thing that occurs to me is, how do I get around in this environment? And I want to tell you that our thoughts are a whole lot more powerful than we can ever believe, because immediately I had the thought, immediately I found myself traveling again. And now I'm moving, and I move and I get to a stream. There is a stream, there is a river. When I was a child, we sang about it in church. Yes, we will gather at the river, the beautiful river. And I found myself at the river, and then the screen appeared. The screen began to move very slowly, and it gave me the life as I had planned it. It turned into three, the screen was divided into 3 levels, and I could see that which I had planned, and I could see, I was 26 years at the time, I could see the 26 years that I had lived, and I was absolutely amazed at the fact that I had not put into practice any of the plans that I had created. And so I'm looking at the screen, and it was divided into 3 sections. On the left-hand side was what I had planned. In the middle was what I had lived up until then. And on the far side was the scroll that said, objectives not accomplished, objectives not accomplished. The interesting thing was, I was amused by that. How could I have lived for 26 years and not know I had a plan, and that my job was to fulfill the plan? Now, when I was a child, I had a lot of questions. I grew up in the Christian religion, and I had a tremendous amount of questions. And my mother used to say I was a trial of her faith. And I did not understand that until I got older. She really was right. But there was one question that I could not get any pastor to answer for me. And that question was, Christ said, I came so you can have life and have it more abundantly. And my question was, well, people are still dying. What does this mean? And nobody, it seemed, in my childhood could answer that question. So when I got to that question, I found myself moving very, very, very swiftly again. And I was taken to what now I know as the Akashic record. And when I got there, this humongous, it looked like a vast, kind of like in the old days where people gathered, and had these huge columns. And then the biggest television screen I've ever seen, even today we don't build them that big, showed up between the columns. And now I am looking at 7 lifetimes. What it is I planned, how it is I lived them, and what it is I still owed, if you see what I mean. And it's scrolling, and now it's again, on the left-hand side is what was planned in that lifetime. In the middle is what I lived. And I'm truly now living the emotions. And the first one, I saw myself as a warrior in the times when the earth was in darkness, and we walked around with the torches. And we're going through what looks like an underground field, and we come out at the ocean. And at the time, the tribe that I lived in was losing the war. And so they took the women, a number of women and children, and got us to the ocean side to put us in these boats, hoping that we would survive and that they would be able to rebuild. And I'm experiencing the fear and the emotions that is happening. And I'm wondering, where are my parents? Because they're nowhere there. You know, we got in the boat and the boat, we all drowned. The boat went under and we all drowned. There were 23 women on the boat and 7 children. I have to put this in now that I get involved in a water aerobics class that has, would you believe, 23 women. And we do aerobics together. And I'm very aware that those were the 23 women that we drowned together at the same time. The next screen came up with me as a woman. And this time now, I am at the spot where Moses was taken out to the bulrushes. And as women, we're standing there going, but you know, the Jews has no dealings with the Samaritans. This is going to get us into trouble. And again, experiencing all those emotions, you know, that came with race hatred. And so that was the next one. Then the next one that I came up against is I'm at the cross. I'm a Jew, and I'm at the cross where Christ was crucified. And it's kind of very interesting that I can feel inside of me that this man is real. I'm a Jew, but I can feel inside of me he's real. What he has to say and what he came here to do is very, very real. And feeling all that compassion, not saying anything, but feeling all the compassion. The next place I found myself was at the spot where Paul, the Apostle Paul, when he was taken off of the, he was taken off the horse. And he had that experience that opened up his eyes. And if you remember, Paul was he was a Jew at the time. So I'm there, and I'm very moved by that, how he lost his ability to speak and his sight, and over a period of time, when he reemerged, there he was with a whole lot of information that humanity needed to hear. And then the next one now is a little bit more modern day. I am a child, and I am in the cotton fields, Black child with my mother, and we're picking cotton. And I can hear the hooves of the master man on the horse in the next aisle, knowing very well that once he gets through that aisle, he will come around the corner, and I will be one that will be whipped, because if you can't fulfill the amount that you should do, then I can hear the whip the master coming through and the hooves of the horse, and I can hear the whip every time, you know, that whip hits the back. And I'm terrified because I know I'm a child and I can't make my quota. And just as he's about to come around the corner with this terror inside of me, I'm waiting for the lash of the whip. The scene changes. It changes. And I'm the white master man on a horse, wielding that whip. And in that moment, I understand that we got to stop this, who we think who is who. Because it helped me to understand the oneness of humanity, because we live every single experience and we learn from every single experience. And then from there, I was taken back to the river. Yes, there is a river. And there I was greeted by all these family and friends who live on the other side. And it was a glorious reunion. So much love being expending and exchanged one to the other. And then I was told, you have to go back. And I said, why? I don't want to go back. And they said, well, you have to go back. You have to return. You have a message for humanity. And I said, well, what is that? And they said, there is more to life than meets the eye. Life is eternal. And with that, I found myself falling backwards and having that horrible experience. We do not realize how phenomenal our energy field is. And experiencing that phenomenal energy field being crammed back into a body, and a body that was not even well, it was really, really tough. And the journey began of living in a body with extended senses and information that you know that humanity was not ready to, or I felt humanity was not ready to hear. And the journey of awake, well, I came back fully awake, but all of my senses heightened. And I remember when it took me into a ward. In those days, you take you into a ward with 5 or 6 or 8 beds, you see, and there was this woman who was, oh my God, she was just crying out. She was in all this pain, and she's crying out to God and to Mary because she doesn't want to die. And I found myself saying to her, I pushed myself up and I said, lady, stop it. You got 10 more years to live. You're not going to die. And then I'm thinking, where did that information come from? You know, but it's like, the files get open and you're walking. When I first came back, it was really, really hard. Like I hear a lot of people talk about light bulbs going out. We had to buy light bulbs by the dozen, you know, because every other night the bulbs would blow. If I'm walking on the street lamps, the bulbs would blow. So it was a readjustment now to living with this highly extended energy flowing through the system. Now, for me, it took.
I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to cut you off pretty soon. We were almost at the top of the hour, and then we're going to open up to questions. So
8 spiritual teachers. It took 8 spiritual teachers to help me to adjust to what I came back with. It took a tremendous amount of learning. They made me go to bed at 8 o'clock at night, and for 3 hours, they downloaded information into me and told me that that is what I need to carry forth into the world. But in all of that, it has made me who I am today. It has given me the background to raise not only my children, but other children. And it took me into prison so that I can help people to transform their lives. I didn't do it, but rather the energy that I brought back with me was very much effective in changing lives. So I want to say to each and every one of you, whatever it is you came back with, know that you've got your guards, your guides, and Almighty God behind you so that you can fulfill that challenge and that purpose. And to Yvonne and staff, I want to say, bless you. God continue to bless you guys so that you can move forward to bring this information alive into the world. Because you see, I like the term that you've used, expanded consciousness. As near-death experiencers, we have a role in expanding humanity's consciousness. We have a role in walking people into what it is that is about around the corner. We can't talk about going and living on the moon if we still have limited consciousness and limited education. So for each and every one of us, I say, God bless us and send us out into the world in a very, very special way so that each of us could transfer. People don't have today to die to learn what we learn. If we go out and teach and share and give to the world the light that we have brought back, we are the hope for humanity in the next decade.
thank you.
Thank you.
That is so wonderful. I think that's probably the 3rd or 4th time I've gotten to be a Reverend Norma groupie. And we just got a little taste of it. But so wonderful. So now we're going to have some questions, and want to ask everybody at least one question. So Felice, I think I'm going to come back to you. I think Ann Archer wants me to ask what was the most important thing that everybody has taken from their experience. You're going to have to unmute yourself. And also, I was so intrigued by the voice that said, I am you. So can you talk about those 2 things just a little bit?
Yeah, so I will say that the most important, that we are here to be embodied expressions of love, knowing itself through this human experience. And there are different ways to practice that, like through compassion, love, forgiveness, service, those that I listed before that were shown to me. There's that's one: gratitude, joy, ease, flow, grace, and returning to the what would love say, do, be, share, through the eyes of love. There's that. And the I am you was that divine spark presence that is ultimately our true capital S self identity, that place in us, that source spark divine that exists as a mirror in everyone that we see, that we come to. And a practice that I have to access that. And again, I was shown you can acknowledge the essence of who someone truly is and pay attention to who they're being in human form, so that if you're not safe physically, emotionally, none of this is meant as a spiritual bypass, right? Like, so there's that. And I like to practice this looking, you know, at the checkout counter at the supermarket, like seeing everyone as their small child, because that small child
Really connecting and paying attention to the soul inside is what you're saying.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Lorelei, let's see. They want to, you know, I think that's a good one. What was your biggest takeaway? But for me, one of the things that came out was the power of the voice. Can you talk a little bit more about the power of voice and the power of words?
Well, in my experiences and STEs, I was shown that the future of healing is frequency and sound. And each of us, our voice carries these vibrations. And when we're speaking love to the universe, to others, we are blessing them and we are putting them in those frequencies. That's why gatherings like this are so beautiful, because we're all speaking that frequency. And just like musical instruments, we're all trying to tune into each other. So my understanding of that is, you know, how we speak is important. The words we use, the vibration, the meaning of them, the energy that's been added to them. So, you know, in the Western culture, you know, we use words that are supposed to be loving and kind in an exclamation way. I'm not saying to hyper focus on it, but think about it. When we say somebody's doing good, we say like, you're killing it. Why do we say that? You know,
power of words is very important. Right. That's right.
Oh, and you asked the biggest takeaway. Well, you know, the one thing I forgot to mention about my fifth death experience, the voice as I was returning to my body said, there is only death because you believe in it, you keep creating it. And I was given the understanding, you know, that we believe that's the only way to go back to source, to feel that love again, to be in that wholeness. And it is not, you do not have to die to learn to live in that complete bliss. And that's probably what I would like to state as the biggest takeaway from most of mine, other than the power word.
That we can have the bliss right now.
Yes. That's the goal, to embody it.
There we go. Donna, let's see. I've got questions kind of popping up. And I have a question. Do you think, this is an off question, do you think that Sadie had an NDE? Was she different before she was so ill in terms of her, what seemed to be her ability to work with people?
She had two.
Oh.
She had one where she was had a what's called a mesenteric root torsion. They had her spine, her abdomen muscles twisted on themselves. And Father Nathan Castro, who wrote Life Interrupted book series, asked me if I thought her NDE or her STE helped her in her medical intuitive with the kids. And I said, absolutely.
Fascinating. And what was your biggest takeaway, do you think, from all of your afterlife experience?
Well, there's so many. Again, it's trying to fit everything you experienced into a sound bite. I guess for
Right.
me, I was surprised at what I saw. People would say to me, "Well, you're going to see what your belief systems are. Like if you're Catholic, you're going to see Catholic things. If you're Jewish, you're going to see Jewish things. If you're atheist, you're going to be surprised." I mean, it's just like consciousness lives on, and it was nothing what I thought, and the amount of love that was there was incredible. And I've been back 25 years, and someone asked, is it hard to be back? Yes. But when you're presented day to day with what's in front of you, that's what keeps you going, I think.
Wonderful. Dr. Norma,
Yes.
one of the questions asked, and I think you can answer this one, is having the feeling of the dark night of the soul. I read your book. Like I said, I'm kind of a groupie, and I think that you had that dark night of the soul after your experiences. Am I correct about that?
Well, I was very traumatized when I came back. And yes, you could say in a way it was a little bit of the dark night of the soul. And it's kind of interesting that religion could not help me. They didn't have the answers. They didn't have even the questions. And it was a 90-something-year-old man and his wife who literally helped me back to be able to access what I had brought back and to be able to share it. But yes, it's almost like a dark night of the soul, because nobody believes you. Even when you begin to speak about it, people don't take you seriously. And the church, of course, is the first one to reject you. So it is, you can call it the dark night of the soul.
Right.
But
And 50 years ago, you couldn't talk about it at all. So
at all, not at all.
Yeah.
I was too terrified that they'll put me in a mental institution.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, you go through dark night of the soul, but if you get the kind of support, it took 8 spiritual teachers, and each one kind of brought up a specific way of looking and experiencing and understanding it that helped me to be able to turn around and help others.
Wonderful. Would anybody like to answer this question? Do you feel like it's about life purpose? From your experience, how do you help other people find or feel like they can find their life purpose? Anybody have a feeling about answering that one?
Well, as a college professor, my students would come into my office all the time, and they would just not know what their life purpose is. And I said, well, there's 2 things you can do. One, what do you like to do? And if you can do that as a profession, as a career, then go down that line. And if it's something you like to do where you don't think you can make a lot of money, make sure that you do that in a volunteer way or as an avocation. And then if you don't know anything, I would make sure that you would write. I'm really good about lists as a college professor. List what you like. I think more people have more power than they know about what path to go down. I hope that helped.
I'd like to add a little bit to that.
Okay.
When I came back, the only thing that I knew they had told me what my life purpose was, but it was the only thing I could not remember. It was very, very frustrating. And when they revealed it to me, I was terrified. Prison, male. I was terrified. But what I had to do, or the guidance that I got from those who were supporting me as teachers, was go back to the light. Go back to the light. And so I began to kind of re-engage that 8 o'clock at night, get into bed at 8 o'clock at night, so that I can talk with those on the other side and they would guide me. And it is the light that I experienced that guided me to be able to accept it. So sometimes when you hear the life purpose, you're not, I certainly wasn't ready.
Nope.
Loreli's right there with you. Life purpose can be more than you think you can take on. Is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Then I did it for 27 years, and I never woke up one morning thinking I was going to work.
Wow. Felice, looks like you need to, you want to chime in here.
So what I was shown and what I understood coming back is that we all have a shared purpose, and then we have individual ways of expressing that purpose based on what was just shared about our passions, our inclinations, our strengths, what ignites us and brings us joy and lights us up. And our shared purpose all together is to accept ourselves as we are, to practice non-judgment, to return to that love through these practices. Like, we're all here as embodied expressions of our divinity. And the ways we get through that is our individual kind of dharmic path. So I just wanted to share that. Like, there's so much purpose on focus and what do we do? And a lot of it is simply about who we be. So
I
whatever
love that.
way that's supportive. Yeah.
Every day is where we live out our purpose, right?
Exactly.
Final question, and this is about this once again to Dr. Norma. You talked about past lives, and we know also that you're a Christian. So did you find that colliding, this past life and then Christian doctrines,
I would not say it collided. What I would say, because I still am a Christian, because I realized that I chose the cup and the cross as the symbols that would carry me through this lifetime. And I have to
Right.
stick with it because I chose it when, But what I would say about that is, I find that sacred books are sitting in the hands of people who are interpreting them, who are interpreting those books and what's written in there at the level of maybe third grade. You got some professors on here right now, and you can agree with me that I don't care how clever a third grader is, you can't teach them science at the level of a PhD level. And so for me, it's not that the books are wrong. It's the interpretation that we put, the level of consciousness that we bring to the interpretation.
Brilliant. Well, I think we're all applauding that. I see Lorelei and I, we're all going, yay, yay. All right. Well, we are at the end of this session, and I think it was just wonderful, and I appreciate you so much. And I'm so grateful I had the opportunity to host this one. Thank you.